So, there have been some proposals, and in fact, this is one thing, one of the I would say positive development under Marcos is that it has shown that it can listen to civil society and non-government groups who are experts on the drug problem. In fact, back in July, I think it was, the Marcos administration co-organized what is called the summit on illegal drugs and a summit on drug policy and law reform in Manila. This is something that happened under the Marcos administration for the first time, never happened under Duterte. So, and in that summit, they were willing to listen. And in that summit, I say we, a lot of civil society organizations and even agencies from the UN presented to the government proposals on how to address the problem of drugs in a human rights humane way, human rights respecting way. So there's a whole framework here that people call harm reduction. I don't know if you've heard about this, but if you Google it, harm reduction, that's a framework that a lot of human rights groups and a lot of groups that deal with illegal drugs are pushing for governments around the world to embrace as a way to deal with the illegal drugs problem. Now, harm reduction at its very core is this idea that drug use should not be considered or should not be viewed as a crime, and that it needs to be public health oriented, and it needs to put the rights and welfare of the drug users front and center. It needs to prioritize the welfare of the drug user, and this means that this means many things. One is the acknowledgement by the government that drug use is a reality, and that the way previous governments like the drug war and all of that have dealt with the drug problem have not really worked here in the Philippines or in other countries. So perhaps what will work, and this has been proven by the experiences of other countries in Europe, in some Latin American countries, where governments, instead of punishing drug users, they would embrace them and make it possible to provide community-based rehabilitation and treatment. The idea is that, as the term itself implies, harm reduction, the idea is to reduce the harm committed by drug users against themselves, against their family, and against their community. And that can only happen if the government is serious about embracing the whole concept, the whole framework of drug use as a public health issue, not a crime issue. So, mapupunta yung usapin doon sa batas, right? Ano ba ang meron sa Pilipinas? What's the law in the Philippines about drug use that makes it possible for the government to use the force of law? I mean, we have one of the most draconian, one of the most intensely violent, in fact, illegal laws on illegal drugs. So we have the dangerous drugs law, where it addresses more the concerns by certain section of society, like politicians, rather than the needs of those who use drugs. It denies the reality that drugs is a common issue that needs to be dealt with in a more humane way. So, for instance, to give you cite one example, the dangerous drugs law in the Philippines, under this law, it is actually illegal for you or anybody to buy or to possess, like a syringe or a needle, if you don't have a prescription. Now, how wild is that? That the mere possession of yung pag-inject is a crime. But that's the reality that this law, the dangerous drugs law, has on everybody. Now, kasi napaka-law enforcement based yung approach nila. Hindi tinitingnan nila yung drug problem from the perspective of law enforcement rather than the perspective of drug users and the families that support them. So merong talagang willful na pag-i-ignore dun sa reality na yun. And that has proven to be catastrophic.